Hey all. So, got a pretty interesting one today against a pretty darn stacked defense. There were rosters on the other side with a full profile of rank 4 6 stars. One of the other members of my BG had to take down a rank 4 Weapon X. Should give you an idea of what we were dealing with. But unfortunately, I was also not at my best necessarily because I am a professional musician, and COVID has meant that I have had fewer performances on top of wars. But I had one last season, and I had another one today. And if you are new to this channel, I just want to promise you it does get better than this first fight that you are going to see. So, Doom against Korg on strike counter, pretty simple. Just try and play the node, rely on the fact that you have power steal to hopefully drop him across a bar once or twice, give yourself an extra bar, and just generally make things easier. Not gonna take thorns, so that part is easy. So here, I just missed taking him below a bar, and here's where the mistake is. I used a medium and then a bunch of lights. I should have just used the lights, and I actually would have taken him below the bar, but instead, I have thoroughly messed up here, and now he is gaining Furies, and he is not that close to another one. So there I go, I finally throw a special, but he is up to 7 Furies, and I have told other people before that I consider a good run on this particular node to be you gaining 1 or fewer. So, not ideal. If this were basically anybody but Doom, I would be in danger of dying to block damage at this point. Luckily, he is overtuned and absurd, and this is just going to cost us a potion or two. But from here on out, I'm going to be really conservative and just try and throw the special as often as I can. Doom has the highest base attack rating in the game. I'm not at a risk of timing out. Korg, if I remember correctly, actually has a negative energy resistance, so we're doing extra damage to him. We do not need to worry about anything fancy. We don't need the special 3, we don't need the special 2 for the incinerates. We just need to hit him a couple dozen more times. So he did gain another Fury there. Not ideal, but that's okay. We're just, trying to avoid the original mistake. And this is kind of the risk of using Doom here, is that the power steal can help you against power struggle if you do it properly, and if you don't, it can significantly hurt you. So yeah, it's been a while since I've used Doom here, and I was just not on top of it. So we're up to 10 Furies, really not good. But we're also well above half health and the fight is almost over. So at this point, I'm just feeling very silly, but not worried, just trying to stay on top of things. So in between this fight and the next one, I decide that the dressing room is maybe not the best place to be doing these war fights, which, yeah, maybe I could have seen coming. And you'll actually see me cut here in a second as I leave and go on stage because there weren't any other people in the house, and that was actually the best place for me to focus. I'm taking these next couple fights in my seat in front of my music, which I thought would be a funny picture for some of y'all. So anyway, rank 4 Doom here, not on Power Stack where I'm used to seeing him, but on Strike Counter. And what that means is that I am not going to go through the usual read cycle of, a couple special 2s, and then a special 3, and doing a ton of damage to him that way. Now I am power starting so that I can get a single special 2 off. But after that, you're going to see me just play the node, taking block damage and accepting it, because blocked hits are power that does not require me to land hits, and so help me stay ahead of strike counter. And here we go, we throw this special 2. After this, like I said, we're going to play the node and spam special 1s. Because as long as we space those special 1s out with our heavies, that's going to allow us to knock him down often enough that we're not in danger of losing our stuff. Now there, I miss a parry. it is what it is. It hurts. But Reed is tanky. We have been playing the node diligently. He has not gained any Furies, and so we're not really in danger here. If we had tried to push to another special 2, and he had like 6 or 7 Furies up by the time that he hit us with that combo, the fight probably would have been over. Which is exactly why I try and play the node whenever I take this, because it is just... You never plan on the mistake that kills you, right? So just trying to avoid that. He has picked up a couple here, and we are feeling the block damage, but it's okay. Finish it off, and pick up 3 extra charges for our trouble. The Careful Study, the Stagger, and the Taunt. So feeling pretty good about that. The rank 4 Doom is off the board, and now we head into this Mangog. I was actually probably most nervous about this fight out of all of mine, because I just haven't taken Node 20 in its new form. I don't use Doom all that much. I normally take Mangog with Reed, and Masochism prevents that. It's not that I felt like this wasn't a good counter, obviously it is, but I was just a little bit nervous because there were a lot of unknowns at play here. But see, what we're going to try and do is we still have the power start. Notice that when we hit him with a medium, we gain a bunch of power. That is because this triggers Masochism, which is actually an instantaneous regen buff. And because it's a buff, when it expires, we gain power. So hit him with another medium there, trigger Masochism for the 3rd time, and without messing up strike counter, we're at a special 3. So I saw a model fight of this that took much longer because it was mostly special 1s, and it just wasn't doing a lot of damage. Mangog gets pretty tanky, things can get risky. So I felt like this was a significantly safer option because we get that big Fury off the special 3, we land those huge Incinerates, and now I have done so much damage that, I mean, even that special 1 did so much, I'm just not worried about finishing this out. There we go, throw another special 2, and the fight that I was most worried about ends without him throwing a single special and in just over a minute. Pretty pleased with how that one turned out. So then we take Storm Pyramid X here. I wasn't entirely sure I was going to take this with Reed when we first started assigning. I've said before, and I do believe, that Reed can take almost anyone here. And there wasn't really anything in her kit that stopped it. We just hadn't seen it before, and she is a high ground defender. She has glancing, which can interfere with certain abilities. You know, we were wondering if maybe there was another counter that was better, but ultimately decided, okay, I'm extremely comfortable with the node. Reed's kit counters the node well. His own built-in energy resistance counters high ground well. Possibly better than anyone else we would send this would counter high ground. He will accelerate it a little bit with the shocks off of his special 2. That's just something to be aware of. But ultimately decided that this was the best counter, and figured that we would just be doing enough damage that it wouldn't matter. But notice there is no willpower here. And I think that's likely because either this fight or another fight that this same player was placing was likely Warlock bait. And I talk about this all the time on stream or in chat rooms when people bring up Warlock as an option for certain fights, and they mention his power control. It is very dangerous at a certain level of war to assume that Warlock will have access to power control, because you may run into opponents like this that are not running willpower. Because if she had been running willpower, she'd probably be down closer to 20% now, because we would have been reversing the healing from it for most of this fight. So high ground is hurting here, but it's not hurting us as much as it would somebody else. We're doing plenty of damage, we're fully ramped, and because we have Doom on the team, every time Power Snack triggers, for the same reason as Masochism triggering Mystic Dispersion, Power Snack itself is a power gain buff with no duration, and so that's why Reed's power has been spiking throughout this, because his synergy with Doctor Doom effectively gives him 3 points in Mystic Dispersion. Ultimately ends up being a very safe fight. Just costs another potion, which is kind of how high ground goes. I am not going to miss it. Because the only thing making that fight difficult was the random red numbers every time I blocked. Which is so fun and interactive. And I was using a champion with native energy resistance. It just... yeah, not going to miss it. So Mr. Negative here, it's an interesting placement. I don't really think it's a terribly effective one, because basically anywhere where you can just avoid stunning him, he's not that dangerous. His specials can catch some people, but, you know, as long as you duel for them, they're not that difficult. Return Policy does nothing, because you're not going to try and nullify any buffs off of him because he's nullify immune. So then it just basically becomes, I need to make sure I'm not stunning him with the parry mastery, and that's where Killmonger's counterpunch comes in. So we're just spamming the special one, very similar to a MODOK boss fight, so that we're getting openings without that stun. He never gains light energy, he never reverses our controls, never have a problem. Moving right along to this Tigra, this is an interesting placement, especially for Reed, because there's Hard Knock Life, and so you can't rely on repeated parries. I did consider taking this with Doom, because he would have been great for it, but ultimately decided to use my rank 4 with Class Advantage, who would also have Suppression up, which would mean she would throw fewer specials, and every time she tries to go unblockable, my evade chance goes up, on top of what I'm getting from just non-damaging debuffs existing in the fight, and so I figured that this ultimately was the safe way to go. Go ahead and throw this special one immediately to refresh those. I did assume I was eventually going to lose them, but no point in giving them up now, because they are helping me control the fight. And there we go, another one, knock her down again. Try and hit into her block, rely on that and the taunt to get her to come at us. I mean, she's lost so much health now. I did not intend for that parry, or I would have punished it with a heavy. But one is not a problem. It's the second one, or the third one, that really starts to hurt. So we're doing fine here. If she'd thrown that a little bit sooner, then we would have been able to push up to another special one in time to refresh these. That's not going to happen, but we still end up breaking even on our charges because we spent 3 and we ended the fight with 3 debuffs on the opponent. The Careful Study passive counts as 1, and then the Taunt and the Stagger again. So no charges were lost, and I ended up spending all of those on the minis leading up to this boss. It's kind of funny that I went months without taking this particular fight. Now I have 2 in back-to-back wars. But here we go again. The same theory as last war. We are going to hit into him expecting auto blocks, but just trying to get him over that bar of power. He's being a little trickier today than he was last war, just hitting into my block more, throwing heavies a bit less, and we've taken more block damage and more high ground damage. Unfortunate, but it's okay because we have True Strike up, we have Counterpunch, and note that Counterpunch allows us to dex out of the special one even if that first dex doesn't take, and that's why I said in the previous video, err on the side of dexing late, because it's better to block the first hit of the special one and dash out of the next 2, relying on the Unstoppable, than it is to dash out early and eat the last hit. I was running an Indestructible, but if you eat the last hit, then you're not refreshing True Strike, and that is ultimately more dangerous than getting hit, unless of course it happens multiple times and you die because of it. So, like I said, we had a worse start here, but we are pretty much staying on top of high ground. It was gone there, we're throwing this special one. It's gone again by the next time he hits us. It's still the boss, so he has a ton of block damage. but that's okay. We're just trying to stay on top of that rotation. We're also doing mostly 4 hits and dash back, unless we are chaining a 5-hit combo into the special one. It's not that 5-hit combos can't work in this fight. They do help with the tempo, and you can use counterpunch on a short range attack too. It doesn't have to be on his charge, but the reason I elected not to do that is just because when you are closer to him, like you inevitably are at the end of a 5-hit combo, his AI is a little bit less predictable and you have less time to react, and that can translate to more unnecessary block damage and possibly to some trickier special 1 evades, which I would hopefully have down, but it's better just to not test it, right? We're still staying on top of high ground with 4-hit combos. We don't need to push the 5. And there we go. Activate reverb one last time, and the fight is over. So, very fun war for me. Several big Reed fights, several big Killmonger fights, and even a Doom fight that I'm proud of, which I don't often enjoy using Doom that much, but that Mangog fight was exactly what he's good for. It was so much fun. Unfortunately, we did not win this one. By the time I took the boss, we were already pretty decisively the losers because they were done and we were not, and had died one more time. Really unfortunate on that. Not sure exactly what the issue is, but that just means that this next one, the last one of the season, is a must-win, because that took us from second to last in Masters to second place in Platinum 1. We just hopped over the line there. It may not have been super consistent lately, but when I got here, this was a repeating Masters alliance, and that has always been the goal. And we are definitely capable of it. We've had incredible wars this season. We had the one where we only died 3 times. We just need to deliver one more time, and we can get back into that group. So, here's hoping I have some good news for you in a couple days when that war video comes out. Until then, hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and take care.